Yep. See if there's one before I went on the screen for like 2 seconds for a mistake. Delete it. It's up. Delete the one that's on the bottom of the stream now that say the Nation's Gun Show. No, that's the one. That's the new one. There should be one that came up a couple seconds. But don't delete the one that's live now. Yeah, don't delete that one. All right, here we go.
We're at the Nation's Gun Show in Chantilly, Virginia, which is one of the largest gun shows. Besides coming to the gun show and just buying a handgun for yourself, they've got rifles, there's relic guns from World War II, and if you're a history buff, you can take your firearm that you have and have a custom holster made for it. You can get things engraved, you can buy knives and flashlights and hats and Cerakoting, which is where you cover all types of cleaning supplies and ammo and educational videos and books. I mean, it's like a domino effect where once you touch one item, you buy a gun, you need bags to carry all that in. It's all available here at the gun show.
This particular show has been around for a while. It's one of the largest in the area. We always try to attend because many of the thousands of visitors that come through this show also have a chance to come through and see the NRA's National Firearms Museum. It's a great facility. We have thousands of guns for folks to see, just as there are thousands of guns here at the Showmaster Show. But it's a chance to see history, and that's the best thing about a good gun show.
We have today some original Thompsons here, original Maxims from as far back as World War I. One of my philosophies personally is that none of us, whether we're dealers or individual collectors or any of that, actually own these guns. We're just trustees for the next generation.
I've been a collector of antique arms for probably 30 years, but I love history, and so I bring mostly my antique vintage arms centered around most of the wars of American history. I've got stuff from the Revolutionary War through the War of 1812, all your major wars, Mexican War, Civil War, Old West items, anything.
Second show, September 27th. Yes, and my birthday is September 30th. So I'm excited about that. I'll be 29. Just joking. So we have a great show today. We have Dan Hinkson from Be Ready Tactical. We have Ron Wilcox, Northern Virginia Tea Party, and Chris Burnet, Home Security Arms. So we're going to get right with the show. I am Daryl Brooks, the host of the Nation's Gun Show, and we have Dan Hinkson. Come on, Dan. Be Ready Tactical. We're going to talk about politics, ammo, you name it. I'm ready for Dan Hinkson.
Hey, how are you, Daryl? Can you hear me
Dan,
okay?
I can hear you. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. So I just have a question for you before we begin.
Oh, sure.
What anniversary of your 29th birthday is
it? Yeah, pretty much. Third anniversary.
There
So,
you go.
yeah. So,
32.
Yeah,
You don't believe that either.
we trans-aged. If a man could be a woman, we could be 29 again. So I am glad to have you on. Annette had told me a lot about you and your politics, and I heard your podcast. You're a popular person.
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything over here at Be Ready Tactical.
All right. So tell me about Be Ready Tactical. How long you been in business? What all that you sell?
Yeah, so I started Be Ready Tactical back in 2012. I was on the precipice of retiring from the Marine Corps, and it was something that I've always kind of been passionate about, the firearms industry and emergency preparedness in general. And so I started Be Ready with the mind operate in that industry and just help people with products, retail sales, training, things of that nature. I probably got my FFL a little bit over 6 years ago now, and I've been running the gun show circuit since that time, actually. So I've seen quite a lot. Been at the Nation's Gun Show for a long time, pretty well-known entity there. We're pretty excited this show. We're actually expanding our footprint. Primarily, we've been dealing with firearms and firearm-related accessories, but this will be the first show that we're rolling really heavy with a lot of ammunition. So I'll have individual boxes, I'll have bulk ammo, I'll have cases, 9mm 5.56. Thankfully, availability of ammo has really come back. Prices have dropped back down to the reasonable level. So we're really excited to be able to set up this weekend at Chantilly and have that opportunity.
Definitely, I will be there in Chantilly on Friday, and it's an exciting place. Now, tell us about the politics. They always say that people shouldn't have guns to protect themselves and their family and their property, and that a lot of these people at these gun shows are radical nuts, and they want to take away our guns anyway. The politics, especially from the left. Talk about the politics of owning a firearm and why the left are so against individuals for protecting themselves and property and family.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to kind of consider when it comes to the political sphere of firearms. I read a book a long time ago by a guy named Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman called On Killing. In my military career, I tried to read as much as possible, and I think unfortunately that's something most people don't do anymore. Is read books like this. But his paradigm is one that I've kind of adopted broadly as I kind of describe the world around us. And I think there are three types of people out there, right? There are wolves, there are sheep, and there are sheepdogs. And those of us who are willing to take upon ourselves the burden of responsibility and arm ourselves, whether it be with a concealed carry license and walk around the public domain. Obviously, your primary concern there is your own personal protection and safety. But, as a sheepdog, you're concerned about others as well. And, the more people we have like that in a society, the safer the society is. And it's proven fact. The more you remove the ability for those sheepdogs to, law-abiding armed citizens to operate in a society, the more dangerous it gets. And all you have to do is look at, our moral liberal, either leaning or solidly blue, major urban areas to see, the logic of what it is that I'm talking about, right? Like the wolf now has a free rein. There's no sheepdog to rule to reel that wolf back in, so to speak. And it doesn't take very many sheepdogs. That's the beautiful thing about, the Second Amendment and what the founding fathers, foresaw, given their experience and background coming, from a nation where they were ruled as subjects, right? Am I a subject or am I a citizen? I'm a citizen, right? The elected representatives that are in Congress, in the White House, they represent me. I am their constituent. I am not their subject. And that's what the Second Amendment really, to me, is all about, right? Is separating that very clear definition of citizen versus subject, and also enabling me as a sheepdog to have the opportunity to protect myself, protect my family, protect my community, in a time where, things are getting more dangerous. I think a lot of that is actually kind of purposeful. You can go down the rabbit hole talking about George Soros and his funding of district attorneys and getting rid of cash bail and a lot of other things that are playing into this crime wave that we're experiencing as a nation. In those areas that they've removed that ability to protect and defend yourself, that it's just exacerbated. So
Yeah,
I think that's really kind of my perspective there.
you're definitely right. When you look at places like D.C., you look at Philadelphia, you look at Baltimore, you see L.A., you see, all the Chicago. Oh my God, Minnesota. You see all these places where they tell you, you shouldn't have a gun. Wait for the police. The police will be there for you while someone is taking your property or murdering your family. And I just quite really didn't understand that. It's my family's from Georgia, St. Mary's, Georgia, and I grew up in the inner city of Trenton, New Jersey. And so my grandmother, she always talk about all that. She always had a shotgun and a handgun. And my family kind of, in the South grew up with, go hunting, go shooting, and they didn't go shoot up any schools. They were a part of the, some family members were part of the NRA. They wasn't out there committing violence. They was protecting themselves and going hunting. It was a right. And so, the state where I'm from, New Jersey, it seemed like, well, they told you always, you don't need a gun. We'll be there. And if you see what's happening now in Trenton, Newark, and all the other major, especially blue cities and blue states, the crime rate is through the roof. I mean, it doesn't quite make sense, why people believe that they shouldn't have a right to protect themselves. It's like it's almost to the point of cultish thinking from the left.
Oh, absolutely. That's what it is. And unfortunately, we live in a society where, you're kind of inundated with media. For the most part, the left controls the media narratives. It's programming, right? You're being fed a stream of programming, and if you're tuned into those channels, that's what you're being told to believe. But common sense, you take a couple steps back and think about it from a common sense perspective. If you understand the historical founding of our nation and where we came from, again, breaking away from England and that subject kind of mindset into a citizen type mindset, the firearm is not an implement for hunting, right? I've owned firearms for many, many years. I've probably been hunting twice in my life, right? I've been a firearms dealer. I own firearms for my personal protection, and so that, the tyrannical government has a threat that they must understand and face if they decide to, overstep their bounds. Again, I keep talking about it, right? I'm a citizen, not a subject. So, the whole personal defense thing, we don't need guns. We have the police. Well, it's a common saying in our industry, I don't carry a gun. I carry a gun rather because I can't carry a cop, right? And police, right? What are they? Their broad category there is first responders. Why? Because they respond to the aftermath of the crime. They're not there to protect you. You don't have time to call 911 and have a responder show up in time to protect you and your family in the heat of a life-threatening situation. They're going to come and do the investigation, and they may or may not find out who the bad guys were and arrest them and hold them accountable in a court of law. But in the meantime, your family member, whoever is dead, and it's too late for them. So, that's kind of my mindset and my outlook on that.
So let's talk about some of the gun laws. Let's look at with the nation and Virginia and Maryland and D.C. and Jersey. When did the gun laws kind of change towards anti-gun, especially anti-gun groups?
Yeah, I think what has happened, and a lot of people don't realize, it was probably really Sandy Hook. I think that was kind of the tipping point. That's when Michael Bloomberg got involved, and he's got obviously lots and lots of money behind him. He's passionate about being an anti-gunner, and obviously they wrap themselves in the cloak of emotion with dead children, which we're always sympathetic to. And there's lots of solutions to handle that, which we can talk about later. But to answer your direct question, I think it's really when he got involved and started funding these anti-gun groups. And they've changed their names over the years because they realized, it was like whatever it was, gun control, Moms for Gun Control or something. And then they realized, okay, Americans, they poll tested the word gun control, and Americans don't like that because they realize it is a part of the Second Amendment, right? It's the Second Amendment of our Bill of Rights. It's only second because, we value freedom of speech, freedom of religion, etc. more than that. But guess what? That's what protects those freedoms. So he got involved, and they really started figuring out ways to circumvent the legislative process. And I probably sound like a right-wing conspiracy theorist, but Trump himself is guilty of it, right? Like after the Las Vegas shooting, for example, by ATF ruling, not by any kind of legislative process to enable us to have a voice through our legislators, they basically made bump stocks completely illegal. And it's these knee-jerk emotional reactions. Most people don't realize that bump stocks actually are pretty chintzy. Like, no serious person is going to use that, in a war and whatever. But that was what, the finger got pointed to. It was the bump stock that enabled this guy to kill all those people from that hotel room in Vegas. Never mind the fact that, we still don't know why he did it. We still don't know really how he got all of his guns. We still don't know how many people actually were killed, right? Like, they use these things as distractions, as emotional, playbook. And again, it's not just, the left that does it. Unfortunately, people like Trump, get wrapped up in that too. So, but again, going back to your original question, I think it was really after the Sandy Hook shooting. Obviously that was a travesty, but that's where they latched onto the emotions of children being killed and started really with their process of whittling away at that Second Amendment right through their narratives, through their programming, through their emotional, pleas to those who are of what the Second Amendment really is about.
So let's talk about the nation's gun show. What is the I brought a friend of mine to Virginia in the Richmond Gun Show, and he was really surprised. He thought it was a bunch of radicals, racist nuts, and he realized that it was a nice environment. Talk to us about the environment of a gun show.
Well, I think, like, in general, kind of what you're talking about is interesting because it just kind of shows you the strength of the programming and the propaganda that I've been talking about. Right?
Yeah.
Like the left wing and the media that is essentially a tool of the left wing in our country is parroting this narrative that, MAGA, what do they call it? MAGA culture, or, MAGA, whatever Biden's been saying. Yeah. I heard Clinton called, MAGA Republicans are Nazis, and of course
Nazis, yeah.
And all the real meaning of these actual words, obviously, that we're concerned about, it just loses their meaning because, what does it mean to be a racist? What does it mean to be a Nazi? What does it mean to be an extremist? Well, they'll have you believe that any just normal, God-fearing, American that waves his American flag out days in front of this house is, and has the unmitigating gall to vote for somebody like Trump just because he's not a part of the establishment. That they're somehow kind of extreme and far out there. But the reality is that it's kind of funny, like when I saw a situation where there was some people from DC that broke down in a little bit of a rural area in Virginia, and they were totally helped out by some locals, and they realized that the locals had Trump stickers on their car. They just couldn't believe that, somebody that had, voted for Trump would stop and help them and, help to get them on their way. And that's kind of the way I think it is at the gun shows. People come and realize, hey, look, it's people like me, right? I'm a retired Marine officer. I've worked in government positions for a number of years. Now I'm a small business owner, an entrepreneur, just trying to do what I love, and passionate about in terms of, helping other people become aware of firearms and training and things of that nature, provide them the opportunity to buy them at the best possible price, provide a level of customer service that they can become informed and really understand what it is they're doing at the gun shows. And, it's just people like me that are there, and obviously there's that 10% anywhere you go of weirdos, and I'm sure we have those at the gun. But, it's just, it really is a strong cross section of America. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, you yourself, right? You kind of alluded to it before. You're black. You're from the South. According to the programming, there's no way you should be doing this podcast right now.
Yeah.
Right. I got an African American young man that works for me, and and thankfully I do because people are able to come up to him and question like what's going on, like why are you here willing to sell guns? Because according to that narrative, you shouldn't be here, right? Mm-hmm. So really, you've been pre-assigned to some category and you have no option to be anything different. Well, what does that sound like to me? That sounds an awful lot like actual racism, actually. So, it's crazy what these programming, this propaganda programming has done to people. But yeah, you come to the gun show, it's crazy. It's huge. It's 1,300 tables. There's hundreds of guns around. Hundreds of dealers. There's thousands of people that walk through there. Great deals to be had. It really is a great experience. Great American experience.
Definitely, you're a great patriot. So one of is a quick couple of questions I want to ask before we leave. Why should minorities in these inner city areas buy a gun?
Sure. Well, I think there's a couple of things going on, right? First and foremost, it's just what I talked about at the beginning, right? You, as a minority, are an American. Shocker, right? Like, you have every right to exercise the Second Amendment that I do. Right? Just because I'm, a white, whatever category you want to put me in, doesn't matter, right? Like, the LGBT community buys a lot of guns. And I love them for it because they are Americans and have every right to exercise their Second Amendment. And I actually think the left changes their narratives because they understand that the minority community does buy firearms because they recognize they live in the communities that, the crime is out of control. They have every right to protect themselves as anybody else does in this country. The LGBTQ community, there's a lot of rhetoric and narratives going on there, but it is true that, in the past they've faced their fair share of persecution and they have every right to defend themselves. And I support that 100% regardless of who you are. Right. So, protecting yourself is a human right, not a function of the color of your skin or your sexual orientation or whatever the case may be.
Next question. What do you think about training? How important it is for an individual to get trained? Because we know now, there's some people who believe that they already know how to shoot a gun. They can go and buy a gun. They don't need training. Talk about the importance of training.
Well, let me just put it this way. The Marine Corps spends 2 solid weeks in their boot camp training, right? You have a set capacity of time, 12-week period. 2 solid weeks is dedicated to marksmanship, right? So, and people have this idea of Marines, hey, we're fighters, et cetera, but I'm not talking about infantry Marines, right? I'm talking about every Marine that goes to boot camp spends 2 solid weeks on the rifle range. So if you're going to be a firearm owner, you want to, in the heat of the moment, right, a life or death situation, be confident enough that you are competent enough to handle yourself with that firearm. You and the firearm are now one system, and engage that threat to the level necessary to stop that threat from, imparting serious bodily harm or death upon you, right? That's what is important. So the training really is the only way to do that. You certainly can't do it by watching the movies. And when you come to the gun show, especially as a first-time gun owner, and you start handling the guns, you're going to feel anxiety. As soon as you touch that gun, you're going to feel this anxiety feeling inside of you. You go to the gun range and start hearing guns going off to your left and right, or an outdoor range, it might not be as intense, but you still have guns going off around you. That anxiety, you feel it. And that anxiety that you're feeling in that very benign, relatively speaking, moment is going to be exacerbated and magnified in a life or death situation. So the training is highly important. They say in the training world, you're about half as good in real life as you are, in the training environment. And so the better you are in the training environment, the better you will be in the real life scenario, life-threatening scenario. So I strongly encourage people to get trained. Be Ready Tactical absolutely offers that live fire training capability. Get your concealed carry permit certificate. We have a range that we take people to down in Spotsylvania County. So we have that capability, and anybody's more than welcome to talk to us about it.
Well, listen, Dan, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. Tell us your website.
Yep, BeReadyTactical.com is our website. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search, I believe it's just Be Ready LLC on Facebook, we should pop up. If you go to Be Ready Tactical, you'll see our logo, and then that will help assure you that the same Facebook presence is there. We're also on Instagram. Be Ready LLC, I believe, is our handle on Instagram, so you can check us out on those social media sites. Best thing to do, though, is just reach out to us via email. I'm Dan at BeReadyLLC.com. So Be Ready is just spelled BeReady LLC.com.
I just want to say one thing. There was a story. I was with a guy in Philadelphia at a gun show, and he was in the barbershop, him and his friends, and someone came and robbed the barbershop with a gun. And so the barbershop owner decided he needed a shotgun to protect himself. And another guy who's a minority, he's just like, listen, I just got carjacked a week ago. So it's like, seemed like when people, for instance, things that happen, then they kind of understand, well, I have to protect myself. I have to protect my business. I have to protect my family. And, the hell what the media says and the police talking about, get a gun, wait for us. And what's happening in Philadelphia, the crime rate is up 30%. It's through the roof. So there are people who are waking up, especially, more men, especially African-American men and women in these areas, Spanish, they're deciding, listen, they've been told lies for the past, 25, 30 years, especially as the younger generation who sees all the chaos that is happening in their streets. And I ask them, do you have a gun? Are you going to protect yourself and the family? What happens when all hell breaks loose in the country, or another riot take place where they're helpless? That's and they think about these things, and it's they don't decide to get a gun or something till they get attacked or someone their family members get attacked. And I hate to say it, sometimes it's too late, but people are getting ready, and that's important, because when I go to the gun shows, I see about 25, maybe 30% are minorities going to buy ammo, getting guns, and they always say, "Listen, I'm at this gun show. I've never been to a gun show. My friend brought me, my boyfriend, girlfriend, and I do need to protect myself." So it's it's thrilling. I use that word thrilling to see individuals excited to come out for the first time and want to protect themselves and their family. It's crazy. It's sad. It's sick to think that the police will always be there on time with someone breaking in your house or hurting your family or trying to, take your property. And, people are waking up. And listen, I just want to thank you, Dan, for coming on the show and talking about Be Ready Tactical. Listen, I might invite you on again, might do a panel, but listen, I thank you for coming on, and Annette was right. You're pretty sharp.
Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate you having me, and come see us at the show. Our sign will be up there. It'll say "Be Ready Tactical" and then guns and ammo. So we'll be there. We're happy to help you out, talk to you about whatever you want to talk about in terms of getting training, or if you're a first-time handgun purchaser, we can walk through some great options for you in terms of what might be good for home defense, what might be good for concealed carry. So we're here to help you guys out.
Definitely. I seen a guy who was selling a flamethrower. I was like, wow, I can't bring that back.
We're getting into the winter season, and they're great for de-icing.
All right, Dan, take care. God bless. Be safe.
All right, thanks, Daryl.
We're going right to a commercial break. We'll be right back. This is Daryl McKell Brooks, the Nation's Gun Show.
1898 is my forte, but I'm just a collector at heart. I love America, I love our country, and I love history.
There are also swords. I love swords, and the reason is they're beautiful. Not only because they're beautiful, but because they meant so much to the people who were using them. They stood for honor. They stood for personal values. They stood for family history. In other words, they stood for so much more, if I may put it this way, at a gun show, than a firearm ever could or ever did. Well, I'll tell you, this is a great show because of the enormous crowds that it brings in. Often things walk in through the door, interesting things. Maybe a dealer can purchase. Maybe they walk in just so a dealer can tell the owner what he or she has on their hands. I've got things here that are like a history professor. It's an education.
I have to hold my camera. I'm just wanting to work the ceiling so you'll see my
Japanese swords. And I have sold a lot of suits of armor, complete sets. Most of the swords you find in this country were the ones that were brought back by the military after World War II. And a lot of them bring them to me, they say, this is my uncle's sword, this is my grandfather's sword that he brought back, tell me something about it. So I take it apart and analyze it and give them all the information they need. The fun of it, the swords, in like any collecting, is the knowledge. what you're learning and what you're getting out of the study.
Knives are like firearms. You have rifles, you have handguns, you have automatic. There are a lot of different types of knives. And so what we do is offer a large selection in all of the major areas. So outdoor sports, including hunting, backpacking, camping, those kinds of knives, which are completely different from custom and collectible knives, which are different again from everyday carry folding knives, pocket knives, and we carry knives that range from about $20 to several $1,000s. Knives are an investment, not unlike firearms, and we carry products for that. And what we bring to the shows, 600, 700, 800 most popular knives.
Mostly people, they come.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Nation's Gun Show. I got a good friend of mine coming on, Ron Wilcox from the Northern Virginia Tea Party. He is a great individual, and he's coming on. Welcome to the Nation's Gun Show. Ron, are you there? What's going on, brother?
I'm here.
Hello.
Well, I'm just looking forward to the gun show this weekend, where I can see all the wonderful vendors.
Hold on, Ron. Ron,
And-
can I hear you? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm just looking forward to coming to the gun show this weekend
Oh,
in
awesome.
Chantilly, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when former Attorney General Herring declared that all you get at a gun show, and they weren't worth having because all you can get at gun shows is guns. And I'm like, but I get my pickles there. I get my beef jerky there. I get my barbecue sauce there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more ignorant than an ignorant liberal, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So,
so you know, you go to the gun show every time it's in Chantilly. You're there. I mean, it's like a great experience for you.
A strong effort if I'm in town.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, tell us about the the experience. I mean, once you go in, it's a great experience. You see, it's very multicultural. There are people from all over Virginia. There are people from Maryland, West Virginia.
Okay. So if you're going to go to the gun show, don't think you can breeze in, grab something, and go.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
First of all, if it's early in the weekend, there's a line, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But you breathe in and you go, oh, that's cool. And then you go to the next table. That's even cooler. And, I was thinking about getting some training for firearms and on kind of a specialty topic. And there was a guy that did that kind of training. Everything you want for the Second Amendment. They've got the advocates, VCDL, Virginia Citizens Defense League, the most powerful gun organization in Virginia, always has a table. And the NRA always has a table. These groups are defending our Second Amendment rights. And so we're always glad to see them there because if it weren't for the First Amendment, we'd lose our Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
So
tell us how important the Second Amendment is, and especially the Second Amendment is to you.
Well, the Second Amendment is really a fundamental human right because they talk about a lot of rights, and some rights are civil rights, and some rights afforded by a civil society. Fundamental human rights you have whether or not there's any society at all. Right to life is a fundamental human right. Second Amendment is the right to defend yourself. That is a fundamental human right. So, we're talking about the thing that has allowed many people to survive in very bad circumstances is defending themselves. You think of the cities, unfortunately, there are people that are, the city, Democrat controlled cities are out of control. And so you need to defend yourself. And, they say, the cops are only minutes away when seconds count, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's going to assault you, it happens in a blink of an eye. There's no time to have someone respond other than you yourself. So I especially appreciate Lauren Boebert going through all the effort to get her concealed carry permit in the District of Columbia.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about her.
Well, I mean, good on all counts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe what's her restaurant called? Do you recall?
No.
Well, anyway, it's in Rifle, Colorado. Just to say, so they had someone got killed outside of her establishment, and so the waitresses, the servers, started carrying,
mm-hmm.
and that's how she got all into it. She is an ardent defender of not only the Second Amendment but the entire Bill of Rights,
mm-hmm.
and I really think we have to define this issue as questions about the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights are really the rights of man, and they are fundamental human rights.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you can take away from someone. The state has no right to take away your right to defend yourself, which the left is trying to do.
Yes, definitely. So, you're the man in politics and especially in Northern Virginia. Talk about some of the politicians that do support the Second Amendment right to carry, protect themselves. Politicians.
Well, I think of politicians. And let me just describe it in terms of the Bill of Rights, because I haven't necessarily discussed every policy with every candidate running for office. But I know that Hung Kao running for Congress in the 10th District against Jennifer Wexton. I know that he's devoted to the notion of the constitutional governance of America.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the Bill of Rights, because many of the states that formed the United States refused to ratify the Constitution unless there was going to be a Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights is really an advancement in human development, a tremendous advancement in human development, on par with the Magna Carta, right? That suddenly the king had limits,
mm-hmm.
right? So people have rights, the government has limits. And so the Bill of Rights is a wonderful document to establish limits for government. And liberals don't like limits on government because they want to solve every problem. Well, you can't solve every problem. You have to, you can solve some problems, but you can't solve every problem. So government is not all powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And, this idea that they have that there's a state solution for everything is just not the case.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I admire you so much for your knowledge of government and the Constitution, and what are you doing with the Northern Virginia Tea Party, which I spoke at your event. Matter of fact, what was the Virginia Tea Party and the Freedom? Was the Freedom Caucus or the Freedom the group that you're a part of?
Conference.
What is it?
Yeah. The Freedom Leadership Conference. It's a periodic conference.
Yes, the Freedom Leadership Conference.
We had one in November of last year.
Yeah.
And then we had one in June of this year near Flag Day, near Donald Trump's birthday. And what we did is we had gathered from all across the country thousands and thousands and thousands of birthday cards for President Donald Trump, because his birthday is on Flag Day, June 14th. So we had a little presentation ceremony with Tony Schaefer presented them on behalf of the president and to Tony Schaefer, and we sang him happy birthday.
Yes, awesome. I was there, and we watched. What was the movie that we watched? It was a good movie about the election.
Was it 2,000 Mules?
No, it wasn't 2,000 Mules. It was the. I have not seen that yet.
It was right. Sorry.
Yeah. So which was it? Which one was it? The $400 million rigged. Yeah, the $400 million. Facebook owner put inside
hold on. I have our newspaper ad.
Yeah.
Which will remind me of our. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the Zuckerberg-funded plot to Donald Trump.
Yes.
So
$400 million.
So Zuckerberg's money, which was funneled through nonprofit organizations, was really a campaign finance violation.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are limited to, $2,800 or some ridiculously small amount of money that we could donate to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But Zuckerberg donated millions to increase turnout in urban cities with the deliberate intention of changing the election results. It's laudable goal, I guess, but highly illegal. Very illegal.
Very illegal. So
our other speaker was Tony Schaefer, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer.
Yes.
And if you ever have a chance to go listen to Tony Schaefer, I would take it, because that guy, every third sentence, he's knocking you back. He's changing your perspective. Everything he says is, very established and very confirmed, but it's shocking. And it's shock after shock after shock that he tells you about the different things that have happened in relation to politics in Virginia and the United States.
Yeah, he was on my show a few times, I believe twice, and he promised to come on the On Fire show, the new On Fire show, coming up on this Thursday. So I won't have him this Thursday, but sometime in the next couple of weeks he's coming on in the studio. Probably even try to get him on the Nation's Gun Show. But listen, I just want to thank you. Okay.
Yeah, let me just put in a plug for the Freedom Leadership Conference.
Okay, go ahead.
If you want to be on the newsletter list, go to freedomleadershipconference.org, and there's a way to subscribe to the list so you'll be notified about the next Freedom Leadership Conference in Northern Virginia.
All right. And once again, you've been at the Nation's Gun Show in Chantilly, and you get your pickles, you get all types of food, good food there, definitely good. You get a good barbecue, you get your peanuts and your beef jerkies. So it's the Nation's Gun Show. Yeah, so I will be there this Friday on my birthday. Friday is my birthday, September 30th. So it's so listen, I just want to thank you.
American.
Oh, thank you very much. I just want to thank you for coming on. You're a great patriot, and you're well versed on a lot of the political issues, and I'm sure you'll be championing for the Second Amendment. Anything tries to take on the Second Amendment, which I'm sure that Biden and the left something will happen again, and they will try to get rid of the Second Amendment or try to get rid of people's protection that will protect themselves. It doesn't make sense. I've talked about this earlier. It doesn't make sense, why people should why they should have a gun to protect themselves, their family, their property. It's all about self-defense. If you look at DC, you look at Baltimore, you look at Philadelphia, look at Chicago, you look at Minnesota, Los Angeles, and it's mad chaos in these blue cities and blue states, and people should be aware of what's happening and learn to protect themselves. I mean, it's only natural to protect yourself and get some training and understand that this is not certain parts of the country are safe, but other parts of our cities are a mad chaos. And listen, I just thank you for coming on. And we'll definitely have you on again. Ron Wilcox, Northern Virginia Tea Party. See you Friday or Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming on. God bless. Be safe. This is Daryl Brooks of the Nation's Gun Show, and I am excited because we have Chris Burnet coming on in the next 2 or 3 minutes, but we're going to go to a commercial break. Take a look at this video. Take a look at the Nation's Gun Show, what it's all about, people. I mean, it's a very multicultural place where people are excited about coming to the gun show, and people are buying guns just for, when they're going hunting or training. It's exciting and protecting themselves. This is Daryl Brooks of the Nation's Gun Show. I'll be right back.
To the gun show, they're very educated. People, they bring their family, they bring their children to show them how to buy a knife, how to handle knife, how to handle the gun. They all family people, and they enjoy their life and they enjoy their hobby. I do have some regular knife, then I have some handmade knife and the USA. Right here in Virginia, each one they put their name on it too.
First and foremost, what we've been able to provide is a wide range of training.
All right,
from
so
the
that's
very
my
bottom level, which is a Virginia certification course for being able to get your concealed carry permit in the state of Virginia, all the way up to more advanced and tactical training for folks that want to know better about not just how do I handle my gun properly, but how do I handle my gun properly in an emergency. In addition to just certification classes, we also do operational mindset, or classes in which you set yourself ready to defend yourself. 99% of what you need to protect yourself, to keep yourself and your family safe, it's right here. And that's what we...
Hi, everybody. Welcome. You're here with the Nation's Gun Show, the host, Daryl McKell Brooks. I'd like to say thank you all for watching. I got another special guest, Chris Burnet, Home Security Arms. We're going to talk about Home Security Arms. He's always at the gun shows, and we're going to be talking about it. And listen, protect your family, protect your home. That's what it's all about. Chris Burnet, Home Security Arms, are you there?
I am right here. How are you doing?
How you doing, my brother? I am glad to have you on, and it's been exciting and having all these people from the gun show and, these businesses promoting your product and things that you do. Chris Burnet, Home Security Arms. Tell us about Home Security Arms.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this started, and then I've got some thoughts that I'll share with you. 2.5 years ago, I was laid off due to COVID. I'm like a whole bunch of other people out there. And when I was laid off, I thought I had this much money and I had this much time. Okay, I got to do something. And I noticed at the time, now I've always been a firearms enthusiast. I've been a collector. I've been a shooter. And I thought at the time, why not? Let's build some AR-15s. Let's build some AR-10s. Let's move some historical weapons. Let's get these into the hands of the people because of exactly what everybody has been talking about here. Hey, it's not a safe world out there. And if it isn't a safe world, I got a responsibility to protect my family. I've got a responsibility to protect my home. I've got a responsibility to protect myself. And frankly, I've got a responsibility to financially care for my family. Mm-hmm. So that's why I started Home Security Arms, so that people could do this. But I got another aspect that I don't think we've touched on a whole lot. Shooting a gun's fun. I just back from the range. Okay. Yeah. And you know what I like doing? I like making clover leaves on paper targets. That's fun. Now, I do some other things in life, and every one of them has a bit of danger to them. And people get upset, gee, you're firing at something. What happens if you hurt somebody? All this sort of stuff. Well, guess what? I scuba dive. Okay. Could I hurt myself? Absolutely. I could drown. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've actually swam with sharks and had quite a bit of fun with it.
You're a better man than me.
I enjoy taking a car around a track, okay? Hitting the apex of a corner and being able to floor it, coming out of that corner and enjoying it. Guess what? I could go into the guardrail. I could flip. I could, hit a pedestrian. I don't want to do that. I just want to get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Same with firearms. I like making clover leaves. I like making single holes. I like being able to be knowledgeable of a number of different platforms. I love learning about the history of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I collect and I shoot for those reasons. And I hope that I can pass that on to my constituents. Number one is we got to protect our families, because I'll give you a couple of stories, but
okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I used to live on a boat. Think about that.
You're my hero. I want to live on a boat.
How are the police going to show up? And, I was living in Florida at the time, but I would be in between Florida and the Bahamas. And I would, we would spend the night anchored out, those sort of things. A fast moving boat coming up at 40 knots. There is no way the Coast Guard, the police, or any sort of constable is going to be there to protect you. It's up to you. And if you can't do it, the only people that are going to come out there to help are going to be cleaning up.
Mm.
I don't want that, So everyone out there should understand that everyone that has a gun, the first thing that we want to do is avoid a conflict.
Mm.
I don't want to give a threat to someone of bodily harm, but if someone in a fast moving boat came up and they saw that I had a gun,
mm-hmm.
they'd probably go for the next boat. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And at that point, not a word was said, not a shot was fired, nothing else, but my family was protected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important.
Yeah, it's common sense. It's definitely common sense, and like I said, we said earlier, people should have something to protect themselves and their family, and listen, people like yourself, individuals, you have a gun to protect yourself. You're not out there, committing crimes and shooting up schools and just committing all types of crimes, ShopRites, businesses, restaurants. You just want to protect yourself, and that's one of the things about the politics, the nation's gun show. I mean, that's what it's all about, politics, because they believe that you're going to be a threat one day, or if you give a gun, semi-automatic, whatever, you're going to go out and do something. But you don't see individuals, no NRA. Have you ever heard of an NRA or a guy just who knows his rights and who goes hunting and shooting and goes out, training? You don't see you guys shooting up anything.
No. Would I love to tear up a stump? Yep, sure would.
Mm-hmm.
Do I like that paper target? Yep, sure do. Am I above shooting at a crow? No, none whatsoever. Okay. Do I mind? I've been hunting a couple times in my life,
mm-hmm.
and more of that is the thing that I wanted to hunt for, and me being there have not come together. Okay, I'm not against it. I'm not real big into white-tailed deer, but boy, if you gave me a hog hunt, I'd be right there, because I love me some barbecue, and
awesome.
I do it pretty well. Okay,
mm-hmm.
So I'm for that, and I'm for the rights of people to, Dan did a beautiful job with this, being citizens. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a citizen. I'm not a subject. And another myth out there that I want to dispel is, for over 20 years now, I've had over 50 guns.
Mm.
And not one of those guns has gotten out of the safe at night and done any harm to anyone.
Mm.
It's not the guns.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's what's in the heart of the individual that is holding the weapon at the time.
Yes.
Okay. We have gotten rid of common sense here in the United States. We've gotten rid of, you try to legislate it. No, you can't do it. You
mm-hmm.
just have to empower the people. And we don't want to do that either.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Uh, I was talking to people the other day, and I was like, we live in the craziest time that I've ever lived in.
Definitely.
And I think that a lot of people can say that. And I feel better at night when there's a gun by the bed.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah,
it.
it's only you're right. And so, one of the things I want to talk about is the Chantilly and the different gun shows that Annette uh, is behind. And what is your experience at these gun shows? The culture of a gun show.
I love the culture of the gun show. Let's just start out with that. And the thing about it, and I will describe this to my friends. It's kind of like going to the circus. Okay, you get a different view from every booth, but there's so much to learn. There's so much to jump into and enjoy. It isn't just guns. You've had a lot on here about knives, but how did the people get here? I'll tell you, I sold software to the military for 28 years. And, if you press me and say, well, gee, Chris, what about background checks and all this? I'm not as political or as, I would say that I'm a little bit more middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that buying and owning a firearm is a very personal decision. I just like the people that have that personal decision to do it 50, 100 times. Hey, it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like me. I mean, I want to know there's a beauty in the symmetry of 6 shots coming out of a cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mathematical elegance to the way that rotates and stops on a micron to fire.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate all of that, and when you go to the gun show, you see all of this, you learn all of this, you're going to meet some entrepreneurs there, but I think that you're also going to meet some of the business leaders of tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll point to Geisley. I'll point to Durkin. Geisley used to come through here all the time and do gun shows, and their family has done quite well with it. Tim Durkin, great guy. I learned the other week now that he's got crews that work the East Coast and crews that work the West Coast. The people that work for him, and I think he's got 25 or 30 of them that work for him now, had nothing to do with gun industry when he brought them in. And that's cool. That's cool that, he can do a couple $1 million a year in sales by, one at a time, educating somebody, working with people, and giving them a good value for their money. And I think that that's incredibly important, and you find that at a gun show.
Yes, you definitely find that at a gun show. I mean, you meet all these different individuals. Like I said, entrepreneurship, individuals who've probably never got involved with guns. They finally saying, well, I can start a business, I can learn, I can help people, and the gun show, especially, I love Chantilly because you have everything there and you have a great culture. I mean, if you just want to go walk around, get a T-shirt, you can go get a, T-shirt, headband. You want to look at knives just for collect, people want to collect knives. People want to collect, you got swords there, you get and you have, if you want beef jerky, you can get, some of the best beef jerky, you can go there, because I definitely do that. When I don't have time to go, I'm promoting the book and I'm hungry and I don't have time to go to the store. I'll see some beef jerky there and I see other things that people are selling and entrepreneurship. I just got to thank Annette because she has done a hell of a job promoting these gun shows and getting entrepreneurs to make money. And that's so important, for entrepreneurs to decide, I want to start a small business. They're selling hats, the military hats, they're T-shirts, you got the guns, holsters, you got ammo, and the individuals need ammo. I mean, it's important. So one of the questions I want to ask, why should a person who is a first time, he or she has never had a gun, why should they go to the gun show and why should they get their gun permit?
Well, first, they should go to the gun show because everybody has a responsibility to protect the people around them. Okay. And they should go and they should learn about the weapon that they're interested in. They should get training on how to use it and how to use it safely, how not to hurt others or hurt themselves, how to clean, how to maintain, how to enjoy. Again, I'm going to hit on that point. Let's enjoy these things because they can be fun. Go to the gun show, get to know some of the people. We're not big anonymous, corporations. You can see I'm in my shop. It's small and it's intimate. But when I hand a person a gun, I say, as long as you don't use it as an axe, I'll guarantee it for life. Okay. And that's for material and workmanship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to people. We go out there and you buy something and let's say that it was made offshore and it, you don't get your money's worth and you lose faith in the system.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people at gun shows restore some of that faith. And I think that that's a good thing.
Yes, definitely it is. Like I said, I've had a couple of friends of mine, they have never been to a gun show and they've decided to go to the gun show and they said, wow, this is a great experience. We didn't realize that these were some nice people. Yeah. They all said, oh my God, these people are wacky people, crazy racists. And next thing you know, they see individuals, black and white, selling guns, selling ammo, or just selling some of their products that they have. And it's like a great family experience.
I want to comment a minute on the racism that's been talked about in the show. Everybody walks in that show, to me, is not a color, is not a creed, is not a sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that walks in that show has the opportunity to be a responsible person.
Yes.
That's all that matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'll tell you the one that kind of surprised me and really solidified my thoughts was we had immigrants that were carrying their green cards come to the show because they were getting hassled. How sad is that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That people are not, I'll give you my thoughts. Do I want to close the borders? Hell yes. Okay. But once you're here,
yes.
I want you to go to work. I want you to pay some taxes. I want you to be responsible. And I want you to do everything that I want any other person to do. Mm-hmm. Protect your family. Enjoy yourself. There is no color at a gun show, or there shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so surprised my first time ever going to a gun show, and I was like, wow, this is a great experience, and this is why I'm always in Chantilly. I was just at Ocean City, Maryland at the gun show. I've been at the Virginia gun show. I've been at one of the gun shows in Philadelphia and a couple other places. But, it's been a great experience for me. And for this show is to show people that, that people at these gun shows are not crazy, nuts, radicals. They're regular people that understands the law that, about protecting yourselves. So before we leave, what exactly what are specific certain things that you do sell at the gun shows?
About 90% of everything we do is AR based. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
You can put that
okay. Yeah, it's just a lower. We start out with these. This one's broken. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it.
But it's here on my desk. We start out with those. We build AR-10s, AR-15s. We build in 17 different calibers for 15s. We build in 6 calibers for AR-10s. We augment that with other people's firearms. I would love to tell you that I do training. We've done some in the past. I have a person on staff that is an instructor for a government agency, and we've done some one-on-one with that before, primarily because it was first-time gun owner, and the people. It was a husband and wife, and both of them were over 80, and they had a blast.
Oh, I guarantee that was exciting. That was definitely exciting for if you're over 80 years old and you're probably first-time gun owners, or you just experience something different. Listen, I just want to thank you for coming on. That's Chris Burnet, Home Security Arms. What is your website? Website?
HomeSecurityArms.com.
All right, HomeSecurityArms.com. Listen, Chris Burnet, I'll probably see you in Chantilly, but listen, I just want to thank you for.
I'll be there.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been a great experience getting to talk to you, and hopefully people wake up and get the message right and protect yourself. There's nothing wrong. Don't listen to the left. Don't listen to to the left Democrats. These are areas where all mad chaos is happening in their cities and their states. There's nothing wrong with to protect yourself, protecting your family, protect your property. It's the right thing to do. Martin Luther King, I talked about Martin Luther King in a couple of shows ago, where I said that Martin Luther King tried to get a gun license and he was denied in Alabama, and that was sad. So listen, Martin Luther King believed in the Second Amendment. Definitely.
There you go.
And
you know something?
You
know something? I didn't see anything that precluded anyone from that Second Amendment.
Yes.
That saddens me to hear that he was denied.
Yes.
And I'm very happy that I don't think that would be the case today. So.
All right. Well, listen, I thank you. I thank you for coming on the show. God bless. Be safe. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. All right, I am back. Yes, this is Daryl Brooks of the Nation's Gun Show. Listen, people, come out to Chantilly this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You're going to enjoy yourself. You're going to have it's a great culture. There are going to be people from all around the different states. You're going to have people from Virginia, Maryland, D.C., Pennsylvania, West Virginia. It's the Nation's Gun Show in Chantilly. Listen, I thank Annette for sponsoring the show. Listen, people, we're going to have a lot of different guests coming on talking about the different gun rights, the different organizations, the individuals that groups that are coming out to Chantilly at the gun show and all over the country. And we're going to talk to you about knowing your rights to carry guns and protect yourself. I just want to thank everybody for watching. This is Daryl McKell Brooks of the Nation's Gun Show. Check me out this Thursday at 4 o'clock, the On Fire Show, where we talk about politics and social issues. I thank everyone for watching. Support the Nation's Gun Show. Check it out online. Just type up the Nation's Gun Show. Okay, the Nation's Gun Show. You can check it out. This is Daryl Brooks, and peace and love. God bless. Be safe.
Sense is common sense.
Welcome to the CannaSense Total Wellness Collective. You're just a few simple clicks away from getting the cannabis products you want and have them delivered right to your home. So how does it work? Don't worry, it's easy. First, go to cannasense.com. Click the Join Now button. Next, fill out the sponsorship form. If you don't have a sponsor, just type CannaSense in the field. Next, submit the form and wait for your welcome email. Once you receive your welcome email, log into your account. Click on Apothecary to see all of the available inventory. Choose your products, pay for your order, and track your package. Remember, delivery times vary by location.
Help you understand.
I've been to the Nation's Gun Show since it started. We've been in business since 1982. We started doing gun shows at the Roanoke Gun Show with Annette's mother.
And we bring 3,500 to 4,000 guns to this show. We do every gun show there is in Virginia. I think the selection that we have far exceeds anything else you'll find in the show. And then we back it up with good service. If you have a problem with our gun, bring it to me. We'll take care of it. We don't make the guns, but we can make the guns right for you. I'm dealing with people's grandchildren that I've sold guns to. We want a long-term relationship with every customer that we have. Hey guys, this is Jerry Cochran with Trader Jerry's. Come and see us at the Nation's Gun Show. We'd love to have you here. We invite you to come. It's the best event you'll attend.